What is good, Raider Nation? Wow, it's been well over 3 or 4 weeks since I've been live. I'm pumped up, man. I'm pumped up to definitely get into this. Give you guys my thoughts, my opinions on the Raiders. I hope you guys can hear me. Please confirm that you guys can hear me. Um, yeah, man. I appreciate every single one of you guys that are already here. 15 of you guys were like 30 seconds in. So huge shout out to all 15 of you guys that are already here. I want to jump into this, man. Training camp is 9 days away. Can you guys believe it, man? We've gotten through the off season, all the rumors, all the reports. Guess what, man? Derek Carr is still the quarterback. How many times did we hear that it was going to be Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers or somebody else? Last year we dealt with Tom Brady, so it's going to be interesting, man. I'm really pumped up to get into this, man. It's been a long time, man, since I've been live. I might have lost a step here, so bear with me here while we really get into this. I want to jump right into it and get into the Raiders running back coach Kirby Wilson retiring. When the news hit, I think it was on Friday or maybe it was Saturday morning. I thought about it. I was like, I should just make a video really quickly, give you my thoughts and opinions. But we weren't really sure why Coach Wilson retired. And a lot of people might say, well, it's just a running backs coach. It really doesn't matter all that much. And I don't necessarily disagree, but this guy has coached some great running backs, man. Adrian Peterson, Emmett Smith, a couple other really good backs, obviously Josh Jacobs. And he was one of the reasons why Kenny and Drake's career turned around, right? He was one of the reasons why. So we still don't know why he retired. I'm going to be honest. I feel like it's maybe health related or something to that because he would have retired at the end of last year, right? Like he would not have came back, but he obviously came back this year. He was planning on coaching. So whatever it is, I hope Coach Wilson is okay. I hope if it's something in his family, I hope everything's okay. I just wanted to touch on that. Let's get into some comments, and then we're going to really get into this, man. I have a couple of topics that I want to talk about: training camp, some corner depth, and I'm going to answer some of you guys' questions. So if you guys have questions, let me know in the comments. You guys can always leave a super chat. That supports the channel. I appreciate you guys confirming, man, that you guys can hear me. Jesse, thank you. I really, really appreciate it. Jesse Rodos, what is going on, my man? Love the picture. Thank you, man. I really, really appreciate it. So let's get into this. Dirty Styles, the first super chat of the day, man. Shout out to you. I really, 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 really appreciate it. The news scares me. It's very weird timing. I totally agree. It is interesting that Coach Wilson retired out of nowhere. Like the season's right around the corner. Even Josh Jacobs said that he knows why. He knows what happened. Which I don't really know why you would say that, to be honest, guys. If you guys haven't seen, I think Josh tweeted it, or maybe it was a comment to Raider Scout, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but on Instagram, Josh Jacobs put it out there that he knows why Kirby Wilson retired. I hope he's okay. It was kind of random for sure. It was, the timing was definitely off. Some people have speculated that it has something to do with John Gruden. And that's not the case. That's not the case at all. Other people have thought, like, who should be the next running back coach? Like, should it be Marshawn Lynch or someone else? I don't know. I don't know if it matters too much. I think we probably have someone that we can easily just promote, get in there. For this year specifically, I don't think it's the biggest deal. One thing I will say is I wonder how much Coach Wilson had to do with Kenny and Drake coming to the Raiders. He coached them in the past. Much respect to him. And it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens there. Again, I don't think it's that big of a deal. He is just, he's an assistant coach at the end of the day. It's much easier to replace that than it would be like an offensive coach or something to that tune. Let's get into some of your guys' questions, man. Raiders for Life said, so what's your thoughts on bringing in like a Melvin Ingram since the Richard Sherman thing didn't work? I wouldn't be mad at Melvin Ingram, and I really want to know what you guys think. If you guys want Melvin Ingram, let me know in the comments right now. Do you guys want him or do you guys not want him? I'm very hesitant with Melvin Ingram, but I would love to get him, man. Like, you can never have too many pass rushers. At the end of the day, you need guys that can win. even on top of that, right? If you guys think about this, if we had Melvin Ingram, we have, Carl Nassib, who at that point would probably be the last on the depth chart. If Carl Nassib and Melvin Ingram are fighting for that last position, that's pretty good, man. That means you have some stud defensive ends, right? At the same time, Melvin Ingram can play a couple of different positions. Like, he's played the Leo position for Gus Bradley. We know that Gus Bradley runs things differently. Like, Gus Bradley is not a typical 4-3 defensive coach. Gus Bradley likes to have guys like Melvin Ingram and Yannick Ngakoue. He likes to have those type of players that can stand up, put their hand in the dirt, and do a variety of different things. I wouldn't be opposed to bringing in someone like Melvin Ingram. Richard Sherman's a little bit different, and here's why. First and foremost, he's up there in age, so I don't even know if Richard Sherman would win out a job, right? Like, let's be honest. There's 4 guys right now that Richard Sherman would be competing with, right? Or I should say, there'd be 4 total guys, including Richard Sherman. So Richard will be competing with 3 other guys. We already have 3 corners like that are pretty much guaranteed to be on this roster, right? We have we have Casey Hayward, Damon Arnette, Trayvon Mullen. Those are 3 guys that are guaranteed to be on this roster. When you consider this, you got guys like Isaiah Johnson, Keyshawn Nixon that are going to be competing for that 4th and final spot. And I say 4 because Richard Sherman's not a slot corner, right? 4, you got 2 slot corners, you got 4 outside corners. So it'll be interesting to kind of see. I don't know if Richard Sherman makes sense, man. I really don't. Plus, the whole Richard Sherman situation happened. It's really unfortunate. Things like that, unfortunately, do happen. Hopefully, Richard Sherman, can get it together, and maybe he gets another opportunity. Maybe he doesn't. Either way, thank you for the comment, Jesse. Shout out to you. Raider Nation, man, there's 111 of you guys here. Hit that thumbs up button if you guys can. I would really, really appreciate it. I have not been live in like 3 or 4 weeks, so it's been a while, man. I was on vacation for a couple of weeks. I should have went live on Wednesday. I decided not to go live. I was kind of busy. So if you guys can hit that thumbs up button, I'd really, really appreciate it. It really does help this channel grow. Raider Moore, thank you for the comment. Do you think Javin White will ever get a real shot to step up? I like Javin White. Like, I really do. And it's unfortunate because I don't know if he will ever get an opportunity to step up, like a real opportunity. Because even this year, you consider the linebackers that are already kind of guaranteed to be on the roster. You already got 5 guys, basically, right? Nick Kwiatkowski, Corey Littleton. You can't get rid of those contracts. They're already guaranteed. Then you got Divine Diablo and Tanner Muse. Those guys we drafted, so they're basically guaranteed as well. And then Nicholas Morrow is technically probably going to be the 5th guy. Then you got guys like Darren Lee. Javin White will be competing with Darren Lee potentially for that 5th roster spot, as well as with Nicholas Morrow. To take that a step further, you got Max Richardson, the undrafted rookie. Like, I don't know if Javin White ever is going to get a real opportunity. I do hope, he gets that opportunity. And I hope it works out with him. If it doesn't, it doesn't, right? The best man will win at the end of the day. I want to give a shout out to my brother Cole G. He said, me, Thummy, and Raj kicking it at Guggen's house, drinking a few beers and watching you on the TV. Huge shout out to all of you guys. It's my brother. For those guys that don't know, he's hanging out at my sister's house. Shout out to him. Shout out to Raj and Thummy. So shout out to you guys. Let's jump forward, man. Daniel Sanders up to $4.99 super chat. Huge shout out to you, man. You said you enjoyed the channel. If you guys enjoy the channel, man, hit that thumbs up button. I really, really appreciate it. Again, man, this year is gonna be so interesting. Like, we're 9 days away from having training camp. When you think about the fact that in 9 days, man, we're starting camp, and we have so much depth, we have so much to really consider when it comes to this team. And we're deep this year, right? Like, deeper than we've ever been. You look at the defensive linemen, right? D tackles, defensive ends. We have like 12 guys on the roster right now. And I don't know how many are going to be on the active roster, but we're going to have some tough cuts, man. Guys like Darius Dales, like, he's a good football player, and he went undrafted because he's undersized. And is he going to be on our roster? Like, he might not, right? Solomon Thomas, top 3-4 pick in the draft. Is he going to be on this team? It's going to be very interesting. I'm really, really pumped up to really see what happens this year. Let's get into some more questions. If you guys have some questions, comments, make sure to leave them below. Super chats I will always 100% answer. Edward said, so with all the changes to Los Angeles, how do people feel Herbert is going to have a better year than Carr? Coaching staff, new O-line all around, no real tight end. That's a great question, right? People don't really think about this. And I'll be the first to admit it. I didn't really think about this either, but Justin Herbert last year had a different coach. He's going into his second season with a brand new coach, so we don't really know how that's going to impact him. Plus, when you consider the second year slump that most quarterbacks have, he might struggle. But this is where I'll be honest about Justin Herbert. Last year, he started in 14 games and had 4,300 yards. 4,300. That's a lot of yards for a rookie to have only in 14 games. That means he would have had over 5,000 yards if he played the whole entire season. And his touchdown to interception ratio was also really good, like 30 plus touchdowns. Justin Herbert looks like he's the real deal. Now we'll obviously see how the new coaching impacts him. We'll see how all that kind of shapes out. But he did have a good year, and you cannot deny that with Justin Herbert. Truth be told, hopefully he's not as good as he looked last year. Hopefully once there's some tape out there, teams are able to kind of contain him. And that too, he is, there is a whole new coaching staff. So we'll really see what happens there. Either way, having the best quarterback doesn't always mean wins. You have to be able to build a good team. You have to have a good coach, defense, offensive line, playmakers. And the Chargers, who do they really have? Like Keenan Allen is probably the only real weapon. And then, of course, the running back there, Austin Eckler's pretty good. But, O-line is not that good. I know they did take the Northwestern offensive tackle, but that's one player, right? So you don't really know how that offensive line is going to be. Either way, Justin Herbert, man, we'll see how that works out. I still think the Raiders end up beating the Chargers both games this year. I think the defense is going to be much better. It'll be interesting to kind of see that. Shout out to all of you guys, man. I really, really appreciate it. I'm glad you guys got a kick out of that. Raiders for Life said, get thumbs up, Raider Nation. If you guys could hit that thumbs up button, I'd really appreciate it. There's 160 of you guys. So shout out to you guys. I really want to get into some more questions. And then I want to talk a little bit about the depth, because I think the depth is such a big deal. And I think people aren't really thinking about how big of a deal it could be. Yeah, a lot of people are saying things like competition is a wonderful thing, and I totally agree with that. Bo Frazier said, do you think Kuntz gets playing time this year? I believe he will, but not as much as people might think. I do think he's going to get some playing time, but I think it'll come a little bit later on. In the beginning of the year, as a defensive end, he's really playing behind Yannick Ngakoue. He's playing behind Carl Nassib, Cleveland Farrell, Maxx Crosby, unless he's just better than all those guys, which, it's hard to say if he'll be better than those guys. Maybe he'll be better than Carl Nassib, but being better than the other three guys, probably not. But Malcolm Kuntz does have a shot to have some playing time this year, especially with the injuries, right? Like, I think a lot of the time people go into the season thinking that whoever's there on the depth chart is going to start and play every single week, but that doesn't typically happen. You have guys that get hurt all the time. So I think Kuntz will come in there. I really do. I think he'll be probably the second guy right behind Yannick Ngakoue in terms of that Leo position. So it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens there. We have another super chat, and I want to get into this. First and foremost, before we get into the super chat, Johnny Perez left a $10 super chat. I want to give a huge shout out to Johnny. Not only did he leave us $10 super chat, he's also a member of this channel. So huge shout out to you. I really, really appreciate it. You said, do you think John Simpson possibly takes over at guard for Richie and proves to be the guard for the next 10 to 15 years? Because I don't know if Richie makes it through a full 17 games. This is a great question. All right. It's a loaded question, but it's a great question. So shout out to you, Johnny, for the great question. John Simpson played last year for the Raiders, and he wasn't great, right? Like, let's be honest. He came in and he struggled at times, but he did play towards the last 2 or 3 games, and he wasn't that bad. Like, he looked much better in those last few games as opposed to when he came in initially, right? He stepped in the beginning of the year because Richie got hurt. Now, I will say this. I think Richie Incognito will get through this season. And I know people are going to say probably, could he possibly get hurt again? He could. And I'm fine with John Simpson being the backup to Richie, because if Richie does get hurt, then you got John Simpson. In terms of, is John Simpson going to be the guard for the next 10 to 15 years? it'll really depend what happens this year, because let's think about this, right? Gabe Jackson was the last super talented guard that the Raiders drafted, and he started right away. Like, he came in his rookie year and he started playing right away. And we knew right away that, all right, this guy's going to be the Raiders guard for the next 8 seasons, right? Like, we drafted him in 2014 and we just got rid of him. If John Simpson was that guy that's going to start for the next 10 to 15 years, he has to beat out Richie. But the thing is Richie's a top 7 guard when healthy. My brother actually sent me something earlier today. I'm not sure where it was from, but they had Denzel Good ranked as the best left guard over the age of 30. And I don't even know if he's 30. I think he might be 29, but I don't disagree with that. I think Denzel Good's one of the best guards in the league. Brandon Thorne, a well-respected offensive line guru, he has a website where he breaks down offensive linemen and he kind of ranks his offensive linemen. Last year, Denzel Good was ranked in his top 10 offensive linemen. Denzel Good, a guy that's kind of been a backup his whole entire career. But I will say this with Good, right? Good is starting for the Raiders at right guard. If Good continues to play the way he played last year, I think we upgraded at right guard. Like, I really think we upgraded at right guard. And then when you look at right tackle and you say, is Alex Leatherwood going to start the whole entire season? If he does, is he better than whatever mixture we had last year between Sam Young, Trent Brown played a little bit, and Brandon Parker? If Alex Leatherwood is consistent, is that an upgrade at right tackle? I say, yeah, man. I think it absolutely is. Right guard, nasty offensive lineman. Right tackle, maybe the best run blocking lineman coming out, specifically zone blocking lineman. I think the Raiders' offensive line is going to be good this year, man. I know people are kind of all over the place with the offensive line, as they should be, right? Until you prove it, you really don't know. Will John Simpson be the Raiders' guard the next 10 to 15 years? Right now, I'm going to say no. All right. And you have to be fit, right? 10 to 15 years is a long time. Gabe was here for 8 years? Now, could John Simpson start for the Raiders for 3, 4, 5 years? Absolutely. I think John Simpson could 100% start for the Raiders. And I expect it, to be honest. I 100% expect it. You know what's interesting that people don't talk about is in the 2019 draft, the Raiders got all these great players, right? Really good players, right? Maxx Crosby, Foster Moreau, Hunter Renfrow. But what they don't talk about is the undrafted guy we got, right? Andre James. Like, we got Andre James in that 2019 draft as an undrafted free agent. Like, that draft, and I compared this in the past to on Raid the Tapes channel. We were live once, and I said I think the 2019 class might be better than the 2014 draft class. And we got Mac, Carr, Gabe in that 2014 class. I stick with it, man. I think the 2019 draft class is going to prove to be better than the 2014 class. And I know it hasn't yet, but you look at guys that have potential superstar potential, guys like Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Abram. Those two guys have superstar potential. And then even other guys that have really, really high potential, like Trayvon Mullen and of course, Cleveland Farrell. Maxx Crosby already has the production. Hunter Renfro's a really good slot player for the Raiders. 2019, man, that draft class. And what's interesting is this is the third year from that 2019 class. From the 2014 class, the third year the Raiders made the playoffs. So this could be that year, man. This could definitely be that year. I really appreciate all the comments, the super chats, everything. We got another super chat. A huge shout out to you, Johnny, and the other 2 super chats before you. Rao left a $4.99 super chat. Huge shout out to you. You said, since our running back coach has retired, who do you think we should keep an eye on? People have mentioned like Marshawn Lynch, but I don't really like that. I don't know if Marshawn Lynch can coach, right, at the professional level that's needed, right? Like, if Marshawn Lynch was our coach and like something happened, I could see Marshawn Lynch like beating up the other offensive running backs coach, right, or getting into a fist fight with them. But yeah, man, I wouldn't be opposed to Marshawn Lynch being a coach, but he'd have to want to be a coach, right? I know he just opened his store, like his second store in Vegas. So I know he's definitely busy with other things. Right now, I think the Raiders would be smart just to promote within whoever was the assistant to Kirby Wilson, or you just go without a running backs coach, man. And you just let Greg Olsen do whatever the running backs coach is already doing. Like, I don't really know what Greg Olsen does, so maybe he can be that guy to kind of do that. as in terms of next season, I think that's when the Raiders should make the hire. Shout out to you, Rao. I really appreciate the super chat. There's a lot of really good questions. I want to get into some of these before we get into the next super chat. Johnny Perez makes a good comment. He says he played better at the end of the year at left guard where Richie was playing. I'm going to assume you're talking about John Simpson. He did. Denzel Good ended up playing left guard for the Raiders last year, and he got hurt, I believe, against the Dolphins. And that's when John Simpson came in and played left guard, and he did play much better at left guard towards the end of the season. And what's crazy is, like, people are saying, the Raiders' offensive line got worse. I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think the only position where you can argue it got worse is center. In fact, I think it was PFF. They ranked Andre James as the worst starting center in the entire league, which is crazy because you have other rookies that are coming in, right? Like the Chiefs has drafted, I believe it was Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma. A couple other centers got drafted as well. The Alabama center got drafted, I think, by the Falcons. Don't quote me on that, but you got rookie centers coming in, and Andre James has not only played in the NFL, but the Raiders have seen him, right? You don't move on from Rodney Hudson unless you are ready with whoever the backup is. And Mike Mayock just touched on it literally a day or two ago on the Lindsey Rhodes podcast, where he talked about the offensive line. He talked about how he felt that Andre James is ready and how the Raiders felt Andre James was ready. Either way, I think this offensive line is going to be perfectly fine. Ryan left a $3 super chat. Huge shout out to you, Ryan. If you guys have questions, super chats, and I will 100% answer them. I really appreciate it. It helps this channel grow. So huge shout out to all of you guys that have left super chats. Carr playing scared instead of being a gunslinger. Here's the thing, right? Last year, Carr definitely played more so as a gunslinger than he did playing scared, right? And I will make the argument that in 2018, he was sacked, I think, 50 or 60 times, which is a shit ton of times to be sacked, right? Like, let's be honest. And in 2019, I feel like part of his hesitation in 2019 was because he was sacked so much in 2018. But as he got more comfortable, you look at what he did this past season, and he threw the ball deep a ton. Hopefully, he can continue to build on that. Hopefully, he doesn't take a step back for the Raiders. The defense, Carr playing as he did last year, and we're playing for a Super Bowl, man. I really believe that you look at all the talented players, all the depth. The Raiders are not that far away, and don't be surprised, man, if the Raiders are competing for a Super Bowl this year. And I say Super Bowl because if you're in the playoffs, you're competing for a Super Bowl, right? So you can say playoffs, you can say Super Bowl. It means the same thing, in my opinion. Huge shout out to you, Ryan. I really, really appreciate that. We got another super chat here. This one comes from Harry Thami. He said, "What's up, Sanj? Armin said, donate money to Mama G. Who do I pay for an auction? Who do I pay for more in auction draft? Jock Jacobs or Kenny and Drake?" That's a great question. Shout out to you, man. I really, really appreciate it. For those guys that don't know, you guys might not have caught it. My brother mentioned this earlier. Thami is the guy that my brother was talking about a little bit earlier. But he's saying, who should I pay for more? And this is a fantasy football related question. So this is a great question. I want to know what you guys think. Is Kenny and Drake going to have a better year than Josh Jacobs? Obviously, we know that Josh Jacobs can get fed the ball much, much more this year. And obviously, Josh Jacobs, you're going to spend more money on him in an auction draft. But I don't sleep on Kenny and Drake this year, man. I really think that when it comes down to it, if Josh Jacobs got hurt this year and Kenny and Drake takes over, I don't think there's that much of a drop off. Honestly, I think Kenny and Drake has last season he had 850 yards. He was 12th in the league in rushing yards. I don't think there's that big of a drop off, and I see a lot of you guys commenting saying, Kenny and Drake for fantasy makes sense. Shout out to you, Harry, bro. I really appreciate the $5 super chat. I appreciate the super chat because anyone that leaves a super chat, it goes right into growing this channel. Shout out to you, man. Huge shout out to you. I'm looking forward to that auction draft. I'm sure it's coming up here in a couple weeks. So huge shout out to you, man. I really, really appreciate it. I do want to talk a little bit about some corner depth because this is a position. This is something that a lot of you guys have been commenting on my videos over the past couple of weeks. It's a lot of you guys aren't sure when it comes to the cornerbacks, and I really want to talk about this. So let's just jump right into this. you know, as you guys know, a lot of people wanted Richard Sherman, and unfortunately, the whole entire Richard Sherman situation happened. But now it's like, who do the Raiders have in at the corner position? Is Damon Arnette going to be a backup? Is he going to start? What about Casey Hayward? What about Rasul Douglas, Isaiah Johnson, Keyshawn Nixon? There's so many players, and ultimately, a lot of those guys are going to end up getting cut, right? And I really want to jump into this, but before we do, there's over 200 of you guys. If you guys can hit that thumbs up button, I would really, really appreciate it. First live video back for well over 3 weeks, man. So I'm a little rusty here, so bear with me here. But let's get into this. When it comes to depth at the slot position, I think that's going to be the key to the defense this year. Slot corner is so hard, and in Gus Bradley's system specifically, you have that cover 3 look, and we're going to have a guy in there in Amik Robertson or Nate Hobbs, a first or second year player, because Nevin Lawson is out the first 2 weeks. We have possibly the 2 hardest teams with the Ravens and the Steelers week 1 and week 2. And we might have to go in there with a rookie or a second year player. And that scares the hell out of me, man. I don't want the Raiders to go into this game here and expect one of those 2 guys to be the guy for the Raiders. Because those 2 guys are likely going to be on this roster. Nevin Lawson will end up being on the suspended list. Those 2 guys will end up being on the active roster. And then we'll have 4 other corners. And I think those 4 corners is going to be such a big part to what the Raiders are going to be able to do. If Trayvon Mullen starts as the left corner spot, which is what we think is going to happen, who's going to start at right? Is it going to be Casey Hayward? Is it going to be Damon Arnette? As you guys know, Arnette was just chosen in the first round. And you guys know part of that Khalil Mack trade was Damon Arnette, right? That pick was the second first-round pick that we got. So when you consider the fact that, as Vic Tafer reported, Damon Arnette might be an afterthought, which is kind of scary because we just took him in the first round last year. Some people would talk about the fact that he makes music and he's not necessarily focused on football. And I will say this, right? If there's one thing social media is it's not real, right? What someone does in their everyday life is not what social media portrays. And I know Damon Arnette puts up a lot of his music. He's always making rap videos and he's doing all that. But that's not what he's really doing, right? Because chances are Damon Arnette is working out. He's putting the effort in. But do you guys think that Damon Arnette is going to start opposite of Trayvon Mullen? Now, I think Trayvon Mullen has among anybody on this roster in the secondary position, specifically corner position, I think Trayvon Mullen has the potential to be the best corner. And as you guys know, he'll probably be the starting left corner, but the right corner's up for grabs. Casey Hayward is a former All-Pro corner, so he has the experience in Gus Bradley's system. Is he going to start? And then is Damon Arnette going to be that third corner? And by third, I'm not talking about slot corner. I'm talking about the third corner to rotate in and out on the outsides. So consider all that. Who's going to be the backups, right? Like Damon Arnette, Casey Hayward, they're going to be corner 2 and 3, however you want to slice it. And then there's probably room for a fourth corner, and that's it. And fourth outside corner, right? Because you got the 2 slot guys. Who's going to be that fourth corner? We have guys like Rasul Douglas, Bleedy Ray Wilson, who brought both of those 2 guys in, Rasul Douglas and Bleedy Ray Wilson. Then you got guys like Isaiah Johnson and Keyshawn Nixon, both entering year 3. Who's going to end up with that fourth position? Whoever it is, they're going to have a great training camp. And the one thing I will say that I do love is the fact that none of these guys are Gus Bradley guys, right? Like Isaiah Johnson, Keyshawn Nixon, both going into year 3. They're not just going to hit the active roster because they're younger than a guy like, Bleedy Ray Wilson or Rasul Douglas. Like whoever makes this roster is going to have to be the best player, right? It has to have the best camp. That's who's going to end up on this roster. And that's one of the reasons why I absolutely love what we've done so far. And I saw a comment just a second ago. Uncle Rico said, we need to sign Brian Poole. And I wouldn't oppose that, right? Like getting Brian Poole, I wouldn't oppose it. But the thing is do we really need Brian Poole? And what does he do for the Raiders? Like, is he going to be a slot corner for us? I don't know. Like, I don't know if Brian Poole plays slot for the Raiders, but I wouldn't necessarily oppose it. I don't think Brian Poole wouldn't come to the Raiders, right? But at the same time, I've heard reports that Brian Poole has been he has a lot of basically he's gonna get to decide where he wants to go. He has a lot of interest. So we'll see what happens there. Um, Mong Lee said, keep up the channel. I really appreciate that. Some of you guys have also asked me about my website. I don't know where the comment went. I think there was two of them. Um, I am opening up a website where I'll be covering Las Vegas sports. I'll have more on that probably in the next week or so. We're launching the Raiders portion of that site this week. We'll be covering training camp and the season just in general. And it'll be a Las Vegas website again. We'll get into that in probably a little bit later on, but I do want to go through some of you guys' questions, man. If you guys got questions, make sure to put them in the chat right now. We're going to get into those. We're going to get into some of the biggest training camp battles because I think this is such an important year for the Raiders. After this year, we got to start considering who we're going to sign and who we're not, right? Like, if you guys think about the drafts, the 2018-19 draft, those two draft classes, those guys need to start getting signed. And we've already extended Colton, which is great. Brandon, we probably won't bring him back. I think ultimately he's going to get cut either this year or at the end of next year. But then you got other guys like Cleveland and Josh and Jonathan and Trayvon Mullen that you need to start deciding, like, are we going to extend them or are we not? We took 3 guys in the first round in 2019. After this year, right, this will be the 3rd year for those 3 guys, everyone in 2019. But those 3 guys, we have to decide, are we going to pick up their 5th-year option or are we not? I'm going to say with Josh Jacobs, we probably will pick his 5th-year option up. Cleveland Farrell, I don't think we're going to pick his 5th-year option up. I think his 5th-year option is going to be much higher than what he would sign for anyways. Unless he has like a huge year, which in that case we could. But some of the biggest training camp battles this year, I honestly believe it's going to come down, and this is going to be the difference in if the Raiders have success or if they don't. I think right off the bat, I think the center position is going to be a big one. Remember, early on, when Rodney Hudson was initially, the reports came out, the Raiders were going to trade him / cut him. We were thinking like, all right, is it going to be Andre James? Is he going to be the guy? And for the most part, everyone agreed, yes, he's going to be the guy. But since then, the Raiders brought in Jimmy Morrissey, 7th-round pick, right? And when you're drafted, you're going to be on the roster. Like, you're most likely not going to get cut because you get guaranteed money. And then you also bring in a guy like Nick Martin. Nick Martin started for the Houston Texans, I think, for 3 straight seasons. So at this point, you bring in 2 guys to compete with Andre James. And I know you extend Andre James, so I'm not saying Andre James is not starting, right? I have been huge on Andre James. If you guys follow the channel, you guys know if there's one guy that I've talked about a ton over the past couple of years, it's been Andre James. In fact, I was disappointed when the Raiders re-signed Rodney Hudson, or I should say extended Rodney Hudson right at the beginning of last year. Because before the 2020 season, we guaranteed Rodney Hudson at least 2 more seasons, which was 2020 and 2021. So I felt that there goes 2 more years of Andre James. Obviously, we ended up getting rid of Rodney, and we took on a pretty big dead cap hit. I think $14 million was the dead cap hit for the Raiders this year. But we're that confident in Andre James. We said that we'll go ahead and eat that cap hit, and we will keep Andre James as the Raiders' future. And I'm fine with that, but I still think that second position is going to be interesting. Jimmy Morrissey is a rookie from Pitt. I like where he's at, but he needs to get stronger. He gets dominated when it comes to like bull rushes and some of the bigger nose tackles that he's going to go up against, especially in the NFL. He's going to get dominated, so he needs to put on some weight. At the same time, I think Nick Martin being that second center makes a ton of sense. I think Jimmy Morrissey on the practice squad makes a ton of sense. I think he, in the long run, could be a great backup. I think he'll be a starter one day, man. Jimmy Morrissey, don't forget that Pip. I think he'll be a starter one day. But Andre James, I think, is going to be a big reason as to if the Raiders have success this year. At the same time, there's a couple of other questions regarding Jonathan Abram that are being brought up. And I think another big training camp battle is going to be the safety position and who's going to rotate in and out and who's going to play where, right? I see a couple of questions with Jonathan Abram. Does Abram blitz a lot, or will he just play in the box most of the time? It'll be interesting because Gus Bradley doesn't blitz a ton. But I will say this. I think Jonathan Abram this year will be blitzing. He'll be coming off the edge. Last year, he had a ton of pressures. The Nick Kwiatkowski one-handed interception against the Denver Broncos, people don't remember, but Jonathan Abram was the guy that hit Drew Lock, and then Drew Lock threw the ball up, and Nick Kwiatkowski picked it off, sealed the game. You look at other plays, specifically against the Saints, Drew Brees in the red zone, about to throw it, and Jonathan Abram comes off the side and straight smacks him. Jonathan Abram has gotten to the quarterback a couple of times, and I think blitzing Abram makes sense. Jonathan Abram is the Jamal Adams, right? Like, he's what he lacks in coverage. As bad as he is in coverage, and I shouldn't say as bad as he is, because that makes it sound like he's terrible in coverage, which is not true, right? I know people say he is horrible in coverage, but the thing with Jonathan Abram is he does his job 98% of the time in coverage, right? It's those 2% of the times that people make a big deal out of, which I agree with, right? He shouldn't be making mental mistakes. Like, for example, against Patrick Mahomes, you look at another play, for example, I think it was Jerry Jeudy that took like 90 yards the second time we played the Broncos. He stepped up, and some people say he shouldn't have. And Jerry Jeudy took 90 yards for a touchdown. He just outran Eric Harris and all those other guys. But I think the Raiders need to blitz Jonathan Abram more. I think they need to keep him in the box most of the time. I know some people are saying, Uncle Rico saying Abram has no discipline. Jonathan Abram is kind of like Derek Carr. Like, the Raider Nation is very split on both of those guys, right? Like, I'd say like 80% of people love Derek Carr, and I'd say 20% of people hate Derek Carr. And maybe with Abram, it's like 70-30. But there's people that hate Jonathan Abram, and I don't get why. Like, if there's one player on this team that has superstar potential, is Jonathan Abram. Like, more so than Josh Jacobs, more so than Colton or Cleveland or whoever else you want to say. Jonathan Abram is an all-pro football player. And I know people don't think that of him yet, but I think this year he's going to prove it. I think Jonathan Abram is going to 100% prove it. You watch Jonathan Abram and not necessarily look at things he does wrong. You look at the things he does right? You look at him when he's lined up as a free safety and how he comes up and he makes a hit downfield. The things he does right, he does great. And I think ultimately that is why Abram has superstar potential. The safety positions are going to be key for the Raiders as well, because as you guys know, Gus Bradley runs a unique style on defense. He doesn't run a split safety look, cover 3, cover 2, he runs simple defense, as simple as it gets. Cover 3, cover 1, man-to-man, and that's it. That's what he runs, and he's going to line up in a cover 3 look 90% of the time. And I know people will say, Gus Bradley's defense is outdated. You can say that if you want, but Gus Bradley has also drafted some great football players. Gus Bradley has drafted guys like Richard Sherman, Bobby Wagner. He's drafted other players like Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas. He drafted Jalen Ramsey, right? Don't forget that. He was the guy that drafted Jalen Ramsey. He built the Jacksonville defense that went to the playoffs. He obviously wasn't there when it happened, but he put that defense together. Obviously, as a head coach, he failed, but he built that defense. He drafted players like Yannick Ngakoue. Then he went to the Chargers, and he drafted guys like Bosa and Derwin James, right? Like, he was the reason why a lot of these superstar players have been drafted. And I know Derwin James, people are saying he's going to be a great football player, but they took him with, the 16th pick? Derwin James was in the top 6 or 7 pick. He was the 16th pick. That means 15 other players went before Derwin James. And Derwin James is a top 5 safety in the league when healthy. But for the Raiders specifically, Trayvon Merrick will be the free safety. Jonathan Abram, really strong safety. But then what about Diablo? Like, is he going to be a linebacker? Is he going to be a strong safety? What about guys like Tyree Gillespie? Right? We see Tyree Gillespie make some great plays against Alabama. He was smacking Devontae Smith and the other guy as well that went to the Dolphins. Tyree Gillespie has some game to him as well, right? So either way, it's going to be interesting to kind of see what happens. I think ultimately Gillespie is going to be the backup free safety, and I think Carl Jolson will be the backup strong safety. And I think Damian Levette will still be on this team. I think he'll do a lot of special teams things. There are some super chats that I really want to jump into. I didn't even realize it. So we're going to just jump into some of these super chats. The first one here comes from Sanjoku. Let me just confirm that there wasn't one above this. Yeah, so Sanjoku left a $5 super chat. If you guys are not subscribed to Sanjoku, go check him out, man. He puts out great content, and I think you guys would enjoy it, man. He's the one guy I have not had on this channel yet, so hopefully we can make that happen soon. But he left a $5 super chat, so huge shout out to you. He said, "Thanks for everything you do for the nation. Keep growing. Love the name change." I really appreciate that, man. You know what's interesting is I've had people leave comments over the last 2 weeks saying, "I didn't even realize this channel was you, man. Like, I didn't realize you changed your name." And they're like, I haven't been watching your videos for like weeks now, and I just thought you didn't post." But again, thank you for the comment. Thank you for the super chat. I really, really, really appreciate it. It really does mean a lot. Super chats really help this channel grow. You guys know that I haven't put out a film study in like 4 weeks. I was talking to Raiders Film about this just recently. Raiders Film has had some copyright issues. He was telling me his last 4 or 5 videos have all been copywritten by the NFL. He uses game film for, I think, pretty much all of his videos. You guys know that I typically don't, right? I kind of just talk the way I'm talking now. So these videos don't necessarily get copywritten, but the film breakdowns do. Um, but yeah, I definitely do plan to do some film breakdowns. In fact, I was actually going to do one this morning. Kind of got busy, so I wasn't able to do it. But um, I'm definitely going to do some film breakdowns, especially with training camp 9 days away, man. I really want to break down some Cleveland Farrell tape. I definitely want to get back into guys like Colton, maybe Henry Ruggs. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit as well. Again, shout out to you, Sanjoku. I really appreciate it. Mung Lee left another $5 super chat. And I hope I'm saying your name right. I think that's how it's pronounced. Sanjit, keep up the great work. Who's the dark horse for offense and defense? Shout out to you, man. I really appreciate it. That's actually a really good question. So I really, really appreciate the question. Um, let's discuss this, man. Let's discuss this. For the defense, I really think it's going to be Cleveland Farrell or Jonathan Abram. I think it's going to be one of those two guys. And I say Cleveland Farrell because people are sleeping on Cleveland. You know, obviously he was the 4th overall pick. He hasn't lived up to it in terms of pass rush, right? Like he hasn't gotten the sacks. And the outside people killed the Raiders for drafting Cleveland with the 4th overall pick, especially since he hasn't had the sack production. But I will say this, right? Cleveland Farrell has been one of the most dominant run stoppers. And again, I know you don't take a player with the 4th overall pick to be a run stopper. But what he does is he dominates players, right? You look at guys he's played this past year. You look at how he's won and how he's kind of gotten pressure. At the same time, people say he hasn't, the sack number hasn't came. The Raiders beat the Kansas City Chiefs the first time we played them because of Cleveland Farrell. Like if Cleveland Farrell did not play the way he played in that game, we would have lost. And I say that because the score was 24-24 at halftime. And the Chiefs had 6 possessions in the second half, and the Raiders stopped them on 5 of those 6 possessions. The Raiders defense stopped the Kansas City Chiefs. 5 of 6 possessions, they scored 0 points. They either punted or it was a turnover on downs or an interception. And Cleveland Farrell was a big part of that, right? So you look at games like that, Cleveland Farrell helped win that game. And I know he didn't have the sacks, but I believe 2 or 3 times he tackled Patrick Mahomes, and Mahomes like fell like forward for 1 yard. There was another sack where he had Patrick Mahomes held, and then I think Maxx Crosby and someone else cleaned it up, and they ended up getting the sack, not Cleveland Farrell. On top of that, I think Farrell's the guy that gets double teamed a lot. So if you say who's the dark horse for the offense and defense, I think it's Cleveland Farrell. For the defense, for the offense, it's very easy to say it's going to be someone like Darren Waller or Josh Jacobs. But at the same time, I think Alex Leatherwood and Colton Miller, those two guys are going to be huge parts to the Raiders really having success this year. And I say that because if you guys really think about the Raiders offense this year, right? Or even just last year in general, when Derek was getting hit, when Derek was getting pressured, he was either throwing the ball away, he was sliding, not taking those hits. So when you consider those things, Derek does not play the same. Like it's very clear when Derek Carr gets hit, when he's getting sacked, when he's getting pressured, he doesn't play the same way as opposed to when you're keeping him clean. It's going to be up to Alex Leatherwood and Colton Miller to keep Derek clean. And people say Colton Miller is already a top, 5, top 6 offense tackle, and I don't think he's that yet. I think he's maybe a top 12, right between like 10 and 12 is where he's at right now. But but he isn't a top 5 tackle yet. Now, I will say this. A lot of people say Colton Miller was a bust, right? Like a lot of people. Even when we took him with the 15th overall pick, people killed the Raiders. And they did not like the fact that the Raiders took him. Um, and I will say this, like, I think Colton Miller has proven that he's a good football player. But more so than just Colton, like UCLA produces some good linemen, man. You got Colton, Andre as well, right? Both guys from UCLA. Colton came here in 2018, Andre in 2019. Both guys were tackles, right? Andre James played right tackle and then moved to left tackle when Colton got drafted. But yeah, man, it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens this year. I really appreciate Super Chat. I really, really, really do. Watts Raider, huge shout out to you. If you guys are not subscribed to Watts as well as Sanjoku, go check both of those channels out, man. Watts is a really good channel. He's been doing some film breakdowns last couple of weeks. Shout out to you, Watts. When Furrow was hurt, Sanjit, we lost 4 to 5 games, my dude. Yeah, I don't know that stat on the top of my head, but I'm going to take your word for it. And I'm not surprised, right, that that's the case. Cleveland Furrow has a huge impact. And at the same time, like, is Cleveland Farrell the difference maker on defense this year? I wouldn't say yes, like he's the main difference of this year, but I do think he's going to have a huge impact for the Raiders. Again, Watts is saying that when Cleveland was hurt, we lost games. I'm not surprised with that, man. I'm really, really not surprised with that. I see some trolls here, so I went ahead and put them in a timeout. Ultimately, probably just blocked them. I think that was a Chiefs fan. I think there's a Broncos fan here somewhere as well. Beast Mode 67 Broncos fan said he liked Cleveland Farrell. I'm a Clemson fan. Yeah, man. Let's see if Cleveland Farrell can put it together. I think he ultimately will. I was ultimately planning to do this video not as long as it went. I'm gonna answer this final question and then we're gonna head off this stream, man. Unless some other questions come in, then we'll kind of take those too. But Steven Martinez said, "Why do people sleep on Ingold?" I think because of the fact that he's a fullback and the fact that he hasn't played to where I think he can play. Like I think he'll have a better year this year, but keeping in mind that Darren Waller, Foster Moreau, and I should have said this to the last question that related to Dark Horse. Foster Moreau, man, people are sleeping on him. If Foster Moreau takes over for Darren Waller, right? If something were to happen to Darren Waller, I don't see there being a big drop off. I think Foster Moreau is a top 7 talent at tight end. And I think in 3 to 4 years, Foster Moreau will not be with the Raiders, but he'll be a number 1 tight end somewhere else. And I think he'll be a top 3 tight end. The dude makes plays happen. Like the dude is a superstar football player. Potential, right? And I know it hasn't happened yet, but you look at what he did when he was healthy. His rookie year had 5-6 touchdowns. Rookie year, right? Coming into the league. At the same time, he tore his ACL, unfortunately, in one of his final games in 2017. And then after that, obviously, he wasn't the same last year, but he was still recovering. But the same thing with Alec Ingold. Like, he came from that 2019 draft class, and he hasn't had the targets yet. But when he was at Wisconsin, when he was the lead blocker for Jonathan Taylor, and Taylor, they would play action and throw it to Alec Ingold, and Ingold would get the ball. He would make things happen, man. He was, in terms of talent, he was one of the most talented fullbacks in college. Unfortunately, fullback is such a, it's not a position that matters too much, right? And that is kind of why he is slept on a little bit. I think the Niners fullback is probably the only fullback that gets the love and attention. I think Alec Ingold's going to start doing it really, really soon. I really do think he will. Jesse Rodos left a $25 super chat. I really appreciate it, man. I really do. People don't really think about it, but when I put film videos out, those get copywritten right away. When even a guy like Raider Films puts them out, we're not making money from those type of videos. At the same time, you look at other content that we put out. For example, this video that we're watching right now, I don't know why, but with live streams specifically, YouTube doesn't allow me to monetize them. I'm not sure what it is. Again, it's not a huge deal because, you get super chats and stuff like that. And at the same time, you got members, right? And if you guys aren't members, become members of this channel, man. I put out exclusive content for members. I haven't put out as much content for members yet, but I do plan to put more content out. And At the same time, man, $25, that's a huge amount of money. I really, really appreciate it, man. It really does mean a lot. Jason Hall left a $3 super chat, said, how much should we extend Maxx for years and money? I think we should give him 2 to 3 years in extension. He's in his third year this year, so he has this year and then his fourth year, which is next year. He wasn't a first-round pick, so there's no fifth-year option. At the end of this year, honestly, we should extend Maxx. I think we should give him 3 years so we'll have him for his fourth year and then 3 more years after that. I don't know what it's going to cost, right? Yannick Ngakoue signed for $13 million. Maxx is probably going to get somewhere around that as well. I would say, anywhere from 10 to 15 million, somewhere in that range. But we also got to keep in mind, Maxx Crosby is going to be, teams are going to want him. He's the type of player where 17 sacks in his first 2 years, like, you can't underrate that, man. You absolutely cannot. Huge shout out to all of you guys, man. There's almost 300 of you guys here. If you guys can hit that thumbs up button, I would really, really appreciate it. I plan to go live more often. We're going to just get right back into it. Training camp's 9 days away, man. So you guys know that I'll be putting out content every day, twice a day. When training camp's here, we'll be doing some film breakdowns and all that good stuff. So hit that thumbs up button. I really appreciate every single one of you guys. Shout out to everybody that left a super chat, everybody that left a comment. And I hope you guys all have a great Sunday and have a great rest of your guys' week. And I'll see you guys next time with another video.